The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Meemaw and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
Hi, I'm Thomas Senna, co-host of the SNL Hall of Fame podcast.
And I'm Jeremy Dove, co-host of the Bigger Than the Game podcast.
Jeremy and I have joined forces to create a new podcast called Pop Culture 5 to ask the question, what are the 5 essential things about any given pop culture topic?
It could be 5 essential movies by an actor of our choice.
Or 5 essential songs by a musician of our choice.
We're not making a list of our personal favorites, it's the essentials.
And we better do a good job of justifying our essentials because one of us will have veto power each episode.
And I'm ready to tell Thomas why he's wrong.
All right, Jeremy, all right. Well, actually, why don't we give everyone an out-of-context peek at what we've been up to? So Pharrell was right next to me, and we looked at each other, and we were kind of like bobbing our heads. He wasn't wearing his hat. Nobody really knew he was kind of incognito. But I had to do a double take. I'm like, that's Pharrell. And then he looked at me.
You just slipped that in there, this big name drop here. I was next to my man Pharrell. Like, whoa. I never heard this, everyone.
So join us to celebrate and discuss the essentials of pop culture.
Listen and subscribe to Pop Culture 5 wherever you get your podcast.
Hey, it's time to gather around the water cooler to talk the SNL Hall of Fame. Hey, it's JD here, and I'm back once again at the SNL Hall of Fame to wander my way down to the lunchroom, where I'm going to meet my friends Joe and Shari, and we are going to talk about this week's episode of the SNL Hall of Fame, where we nominated Jon flippin' Lovitz. I am more than happy that this gap has been rectified, but I digress as I walk into the lunchroom and see my friends now huddled around the water cooler. Joe, how are you doing this week?
Glug, glug, ready to go.
Oh, stepping on Shari's glug.
Oh, I didn't mean to. I was a little. All right. But go ahead, Shari.
Yep, I don't mind you glugging away with me. We can glug together. I've got my bottle and I'm chugging and glugging.
Hashtag
we'll have a glug off.
Chug and glug.
Get and glug.
So this week on the SNL Hall of Fame, we had Brad Robinson from the Not Ready for Primetime podcast join Thomas in conversation. Talking about, as I mentioned off the top, Jon Lovitz. Shari, would you like to recap that episode for us?
Oh, this is one I have been looking forward to.
Me too.
Thomas and Brad delve into the prolific SNL career of the great Jon Lovitz. They break down his many, many impressions, his many, many characters, all of the iconic quotes, and Thomas and Brad they didn't have an official competition, but I feel like it was sort of an unofficial competition to see who could remember like the most Lovitz lines because there's so many. They also delved into some great sketches, including one of my favorites, The Girl Watchers, with Tom Hanks, among many others. Both Brad and Thomas discussed how Lovitz really is one of the unsung heroes of season 11, which was a very tenuous season with a lot of drama, barely holding on. And Lovitz was one of the few to get called back in season 12. And Brad and Thomas talk a lot about that. and how he also, come season 12, was holding his own with some of the greatest who've ever done it. Hartman, Carey, Jan Hooks, and that he wasn't equal with them. So Brandon Thomas hit on a lot in a short amount of time and did a fantastic job of really summarizing just how awesome Jon Lovitz is. Great episode.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was really fascinated with the trajectory of Lovitz, and especially, just the fact that he, like Martin Short, is sort of the butt of a lot of jokes now.
Yes.
And he takes it with just perfection. It's so good. So good. Let's compare and contrast these Hall of Fame members. Joe, who in the Hall of Fame already might be somebody who is comparable to Lovitz?
Now, I know a lot of people would assume the easy one is Hartman because they're buddies, and like they said in the podcast, Lovitz said that Hartman was like an older brother to him. But I think I got a good hot take on someone that's already in, and that is Chris Farley.
Interesting.
Yeah. So here's why. And I was thinking about this. I was watching his best of. I was listening to the podcast, and I was like, because the first thing with Lovitz is I'm not saying he's one note, but he has a character type that he just does, whether he's impersonating himself or it's a common thing with all his characters, which is like that overly confident, not so good looking guy. And that kind of comes off in the lady, callers. So he has that character type that kind of, and Farley has that too, where, it's the loud physical comedy guy, that he does in all his characters. But what they both also have in common is they're able to also be the straight man in a sketch where they could just be the guy, customer number 3 and just be an average person. So, their characters have a similar thing. And then also they paired well with other cast members, like Lovitz paired well with, Hartman and Carvey, and then obviously Farley paired well with Spade and Sandler. So they're just these people that brought their comedy to SNL in many different forms, very similar but different, and then paired well with other cast members, and then also can tone it down and just be a normal person. So,
yeah, I like that.
Just, so, and then the other thing that I just want to do, just as a self-serving thing, I know he's not on a ballot or anything, but Jon Lovitz is not that far from John Mulaney. Just the way they say talk. I just wanted to put that in there, just even if I had to force it, where it's like, I'm John Mulaney, I'm Jon Lovitz. Hi, John. Well, what you got am I? I'm John. And so I don't know. I just wanted to put that in there. So if I was to compare him to someone else, it's John. Because John is similar to John. All right. So yeah, Farley.
All right, Shari. Who from the entire existing ballot has a similar pathway to the Hall?
Wow. There's a lot that I feel like Lovitz is going to be right in there with them. One that I think I hadn't written down, but now that I think about it, I think they're so similar, is Fred Armisen, who often gets overlooked, but was in how many different sketches, played how many different characters.
Right. Very
similar. There's kind of their brands of comedy are sort of parallel. And I think Fred had like a 50%-ish. So I'm hoping maybe he'll get in this time or maybe in season 7. And I see John as a very similar path, but I think that John might have a little edge over Fred. And then the two I've been talking about a lot that are like Lovitz, Kate McKinnon is even more so. I mean, she was such a centerpiece. And I know you often lament, JD, that she didn't get in last season. I think she is another one that's going to slide in this year. And Will Forte, who I think is right there with Fred Armisen in comparing to Jon Lovitz. And he gets forgotten a lot, but he did really well percentage-wise last season, about 62%. And so who knows? I hope the whole bunch of them get in. I guess we'll just have to see.
That would be great. It would be great to have a banner year in the penultimate season of the SNL Hall of Fame and of course the SNL Hall of Fame water cooler. We have some exciting announcements to make all during the roundtable episode, so make sure to stay tuned to that. But before we do that, I want to hear Joe's ranking. We've added a new person to the ballot. We've got Bennett, Otari, Morris, Driver, U2, Barkley, Odenkirk, DeVito, Zweibel, Piscopo, Louis Dreyfus, Jack White, and Lovitz. Joe, let's hear your ranking this week, my friend.
So I'm going to go back to bottom up. Last week I did top to bottom. This one I'm going to do bottom up because, hint, hint.
You gotta keep it fresh.
Keep it fresh, but also hint, hint. Obviously Lovitz isn't going to be at the bottom. So, just obviously the tension is going to be at the end, which is going to be at the top. So here we go. Jack White at number 13, because last week I said, you made a great point that musical performances are great performances, just like an acting performance.
And I want to just digress for 1 second and interrupt you for 1 second. There's a fantastic article in Rolling Stone right now. You can look it up, and it's the top 50 musical performances on SNL ever.
Oh, wow. So
it's their ranking of that list, the top 50 musical guests. So
cool.
That's interesting to take a look at, and I encourage you to do so. Sorry, Joe.
No. And that's what, by the way, that was very Canadian. Not only did you say sorry, you said sorry. So it was like the most Canadian, like maple syrup just came through my head.
Well, to be fair, I'm doing
that happened too.
Yeah, I'm doing maple syrup shooters right now, and I've got a beaver lying beside me. So,
There we go. So, and then to continue on with our musical performances, U2. And then after that, Barkley, great host, but not a great actor. After that, DeVito. He had a great run, but hasn't done anything in the last 25 years. After that, Dreyfus has a great run, but kind of slowed down. She could keep it going if she comes back, but to continue on to that, who has a great run is Adam Driver. After that, Shari O'Terry. She kind of came and went, did some characters and impressions, left, showed up at the anniversaries, but not really to host or cameo. After that, Beck Bennett. Great run with, live and taped stuff. And then Joe Piscopo, who was a really great cast member when we needed one, after the initial, the first 5 years and Lorne Michaels left. So he kind of was a reason to watch the show after, it was like while it was Saturday Night Live in name only practically.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
And then after that, John Mulaney. Lovitz. Yeah, John Lovitz. Yeah, that's the ticket. Yeah, I'm Jon Lovitz. No, I'm not John Mulaney. So yeah, Jon Lovitz. And then after that, the writers, Bob Odenkirk, who did so many different sketches. Then Alan Zweibel for being such a great writer the first 5 years to give us a reason to do this podcast. And then after that, Garrett Morris, because like I keep saying, he hasn't really gotten that much recognition, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because he was great in the first 5. So there we go.
Nice,
Gary.
Wow. I'm shocked that you have Lovitz so low. Interesting.
Well, wait, number 4?
Yeah, but you've got Zweibel and Odenkirk above him. Interesting. I'm not criticizing it. I just think it's fascinating.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Shari?
All right. Well, JD, I think my list is going to surprise you a little less. This is how I think the voters are going to vote with this current crop that we've got going on. That we're only two away from getting ready to vote. Boy, has time flown. I'm going to start with the bottom and go to the top. U2, Jack White, Curse of the Musical Guests. Then Zweibel, Barkley, DeVito, again, long time ago. Morris and O'Terry, and Piscopo, again, lost to the annals of time with many of the casual fans. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Driver, who I think is going to get maybe even higher. I don't think he's going to make it in, but I do think his percentage is going to grow. So we'll see how that goes. Followed by Beck Bennett, who I think is going to come awfully close, much like Forte and McKinnon did last year. Then Odenkirk, who has been at the top for an awful long time, but I think I hinted that somebody in the final 3 episodes was going to start shaking things up, and that would be our man Jon Lovitz, who I'm putting at number 1, and I do think that he is going to get in because he's one of those crucial cast members in season 11. And I think he's going to get in there with his pal Hartman and his pal Carvey. So we'll see if I'm right and the voters vote the way I think they will.
I think it's going to be really interesting this season because we do have McKinnon dangling. We do have Bennett fresh on the ballot, and Lovitz people have been clamoring for. And then there are those who feel that the first generation cast should all be in by default. So that's a big argument for Morris. And I'm only sticking with the cast members because it seems to me the cast members are the most likely to go in based on the numbers that we've seen before.
Agreed.
Yeah. So there's that. Let's go to the final argument now and see what you guys have to say about that. I've got it right here.
So now's the time, Brad. We're talking to the water cooler voters. So just elevator pitch. Why should Jon be heavily considered for the SNL Hall of Fame?
I'm going to turn it around on you, Thomas. How could you argue him not to be in? I don't know what you could say to me that you could say Jon Lovitz doesn't deserve to be in. You know, he's got tons of characters we talked about, you know, tons of impressions that he would do. He's vital to the part of the show. I don't think we spoke about this enough. People who are responsible for Saturday Night Live existing and continuing to exist, he's going to be a little bit lower on the list. You're first going to, obviously, Lorne, then you have Dick Ebersol and Eddie Murphy, but you cannot underestimate Jon Lovitz being on the show in season 11 and one of only 3 carryovers into that next season and being the nucleus of one of, if not the, possibly, greatest casts in the history of the show. And because that cast is so good, I think that might be a reason that you don't think of him to get in the Hall of Fame. To which I'll argue a case, and you're a sports guy, Thomas. Does the name Dave DeBusschere mean anything to you?
Absolutely. New York Knicks, right. Detroit Piston, yeah.
Hall of Famer. Number 5 of 5 of the starting 5 who got in the Hall of Fame. So just because he's on a cast with Phil Hartman and Dana Carvey and Jan Hooks and Mike Myers is not a reason to say Jon Lovitz should not be in the Hall of Fame. He is on par with all of those. This is like the 70s New York Knicks right here. That's how good this cast was. And Lovitz was instrumental in that cast. And like we're talking now 30-some years ago, and like without batting an eye, you're quoting characters, you're laughing out loud just thinking about stuff. And while he may not have had the best or most prolific post-career, and I know he mentioned it a little bit, I just wanted to say those post-show things for younger people who might not, realize what he did, but this is to get in the Hall of Fame as a cast member. And pound for pound, cast members of Saturday Night Live, you are hard-pressed to find better cast members than Jon Lovitz.
Joe, what do you have to say about Brad's final argument?
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with it. I totally agree with it. And it's worth mentioning that Lovitz was like a part of like 2 chapters or 2 categories in SNL's history. Because the 80s is an important part of, like a very pivotal part of SNL's history. So Lovitz was a part of Lauren's comeback year with Anthony Michael Hall that, and it could have gone south after that year, but, Lovitz and Miller and Nora Dunn, were in there. So you have some, key players in there. And then, he continued on with Hartman and Carvey and Hooks. And so he got it from Lauren's comeback year, which was shaky, to the second golden age. and then he kind of got that. And then when you continue on with the next great cast with Sandler, Farley, and Spade, they kind of said in the other podcast that he was replaced by like Farley, and I kind of mentioned that. And then I just wanted to also, because I put this deep in my notes, I just wanted to bring up in the Tonto Frankenstein Tarzan sketch, he was replaced by Farley. It was Farley, because the year after he left or whatever, it was Farley, Frankenstein, and Tarzan. So
right.
I'm just wholeheartedly, huh?
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
They just did it once, just as a goof. But I wholeheartedly agree that, he, and then multiple people, multiple generations just love Lovitz, like for when he was on and then his post Saturday Night Live career. So yeah, he was just a key part in SNL's history, with Lauren's comeback year, the period, and then a couple years after that, and then getting it to the next golden age, or he was in the golden age, and then just kept it, So I wholeheartedly agree with what they said.
Yeah, absolutely. Shari, anything you want to add?
Joe really said it very well. I could not agree with Brad more. I think he made a great final argument. I think you'd absolutely be hard pressed to find a more dedicated and devoted cast member than Lovitz. He was 100% committed at all the time. And everybody loved him. I mean, he just got along. I mean, he's still so close to so many of the cast members.
Yeah.
And that just is a real tribute to what a great guy he seems to be, on top of how talented he is. And I definitely think he deserves to be in. He's not currently on my ballot. He's in my second tier. But man, there's just so many great folks. As we discussed earlier, it's really hard to pare it down to 15.
I know. There's 41, I think, on the ballot. So
yeah, and like 6 or 7 of those are going to go. And I really want to save those folks who this is their final season.
Yeah, we'll have to make
the ones I'm focusing on.
Maybe next week when we don't have a new episode of SNL, we should look over those people that are on the cusp and do a little bit of analysis on them. Yeah, that might be something to add to the show. For now, though, let's move along and talk about this week's episode of SNL. Now, I know Shari wasn't necessarily looking forward to the host, but I think based on what happened on Tuesday, a lot of us were really wondering how the show was going to respond. And I want to know whether their response is part of your Hall of Fame or Hall of Shame moment for SNL. How you think they responded, without getting too political. But we'll start with you, Shari.
Okay, well, I really I thought the cold open was very unique, and I watched a little bit of the Hot Take show because I was interested in the response to the cold open.
Me too.
And especially from somebody not from the US. I love that Jon is on there to kind of give an outsider perspective.
Yeah.
Because he always makes some observations that sometimes we Americans don't see because we're so close to it. And I thought he made some really interesting points about it that I really agreed with. It was so interesting to see them coming from this angle. Less impressions, more focus on how everybody's feeling. And it was very funny. And I think it gave a lot of the cast members a chance to shine. I love that they even the little detail of having the first group of cast members all in dark colors, like they're in mourning. I loved that.
Right.
And then having the newbies, the evil newbies, in color. I thought that was a really neat contrast. And I thought it was excellent. I thought it was very unique. And I agree with John Schneider from the SNN, the Saturday Night Network, that this is the direction I hope they continue to go in, is kind of taking some chances.
It really would be nice, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's Shari's Hall of Fame pick for this week, and that's the cold open. Joe, what was your Hall of Fame pick?
I picked the Weekend Update jokes. Now, before you got in here, Shari and I were talking about update, and she liked the characters. I thought the characters were weak, especially the woman looking for something in her purse.
I would agree with that.
When that's her character title, like you're kind of over explaining the joke. It's kind of like what Adam Sandler did when he was doing the Halloween costumes. Like, I'm crazy newspaper head.
But it worked. That worked. This didn't work for me.
Sandler worked. This was like, if it was like, here's a communications instructor, and the entire time she's not communicating, she's looking at her purse.
Right.
You're having the audience discover the joke instead of literally putting the joke on the screen. Like, this is the punchline, before the character even gets out.
Sure.
And I get it. It's very similar to a woman you don't want to have a conversation with at a party, but like, at least that's acted out like kind of like on a verbal thing as opposed to this being a physical thing. Like,
that's right. There was a monologue and jokes, whereas there wasn't necessarily jokes. Yeah, I get it. Is this your Hall of Shame moment?
No, actually, no. Well, it just
dawned on me.
That. That's a good question. I did go off on a tangent. No. My update jokes. Those were great. And especially having Michael Che drink, drink the whole time. That was a great ongoing joke. They really, to me, it was just a great political satire for a week that we really needed it. And and you'll see why I picked the update jokes in a second. So.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll stick with you and go to your Hall of Shame moment.
The rest of the show.
Everything. Rest of the show?
I mean, here. Okay. No. Here's the thing. Here. Let me I don't want to go through it bit for bit. Okay. It just was a weak show. It's fine. That's fine. It's weak. And I was just kind of saying it as a joke. I just had a hard time picking a bad one. Like the bald guy, sketch, the singing and dance. They had a couple sketches that took place in a restaurant, a couple sketches that dealt with therapy, a couple sketches that they all connected. There was like, if from every one sketch, there was another sketch that had similar to it. So it was almost like they had a hard time picking between two sketches, so they did them both. Something like that. And so I'm like, that's fine, whatever. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. But then another thing worth mentioning is with the monologue. So this, now I'm blanking on his name, the host.
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr. I know, I'm talking so fast, my brain is having a hard time catching up. So Bill Burr, he wrote for Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle. So I think that's why they picked him to host the week after the election. Kind of the similar way they would choose Rock or Chappelle to host. Is like, hey, we'll do all this great political satire in the monologue, and then have the host just kind of like Chris Rock does. He does his monologue, and he's kind of just there for the rest of the show. He has to be in it, as an obligation kind of thing. But Bill Burr's monologue wasn't really that political. It was kind of like sandwiched. Like, he had political stuff in there, but it was on either end of it was just kind of mundane airplane jokes. Like, literally, he was talking about a guy who took his shoes off on an airplane. And I feel like everyone was expecting him to tackle the election and have good, political satire. And he didn't really do much of that. And so I feel like after that was done, it was like, all right, well, I guess this is our host, and he's a stand-up. So it just felt like, I don't know, like the whole thing was the monologue was the linchpin of the whole show, and it didn't deliver. Then after that, there wasn't any sketches that gripped me. So I don't know. I'm gonna say the
rest of the
show So
wow. Yeah, I thought he flipped the switch right away when he said, "I don't pay attention to politics," and it was like, why are you hosting on the Saturday after one of the biggest elections of all time? If you're not interested in politics, I don't expect you to make the whole episode about the election, but as he came out on stage, I said to my wife, who was watching it with me, I said, "Oh, I can't wait to see his take." And his take right off the bat was, sort of like, "I'm not going to talk about this." And then he did. And it almost seemed like he was pivoting because he wasn't getting the reaction that he thought he might get with some of the more standard jokes. I don't know if that's the case. I doubt it is the case, but it was just interesting to look at. Shari, what is your Hall of Shame moment for the week?
Well, you two sort of segued into it very nicely. I agree with Joe. This was definitely my least favorite episode of the season so far. And I don't have really high hopes for next week either with Charlie XCX.
Oh, right. Yes.
I don't know how that's going to go down. We'll see. But anyways, I don't like him at all. I don't think he's funny. And he's so shouty. Like, I'm a loud person, but he makes me seem rather quiet. He's constantly shouting. And on the chat last night, because I was, like I said, in there for a bit of the hot take show for that Saturday Night Network, somebody made the point that I had made in my notes, which is that every one of his performances seemed like the same character.
Yeah,
he's definitely not a sketch performer. He's not John Mulaney, who can do stand-up and be a sketch performer. He's not Dana Carvey, who was a stand-up. He's a stand-up, and that's all. I think I hope they don't invite him back. He was really awful. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but he just, I wasn't really disappointed because I kind of knew I kind of had a feeling it was going to go this way, but yeah, quite a disappointment. I mean, if they had to have a stand up, I wish, Chappelle or Rock, I would have been all for, but definitely not. Definitely not one of their better outings.
Well, as you mentioned, next week we have a musical guest that is double duty. They're going to be hosting as well, and that is Charlie XCX. And it should be interesting to see if Shari's prediction comes true, and it is, a bit of a stinker. I don't remember enjoying the performance that she did last time that she was on. I know she was just musical guest from what I recall, but she was in a sketch as I remember it. But I don't know. As for what we've got on the table for this show next week, well, it's going to be a wild card, folks. We have 2 episodes remaining in the nominee process. We have Aidy Bryant and we have Bobby Moynihan. And next week, one of those episodes will air on Monday. So there's that. I really want to thank you for stopping by the lunchroom with me today. Joe, Shari, thanks so much for your input and analysis. I always look forward to it. It's interesting and it's thought-provoking. So thank you for that. As for me, that's what I've got for you this week. Please make sure to tune in to the SNL Hall of Fame on Monday and subscribe to the SNL Hall of Fame water cooler as well. It appears on the same feed, so it's easy to do. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/SNL Hall of Fame. And you can email us at snlhofwc@gmail.com. So there's a lot of ways to stay in touch, folks. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, stay thirsty. Thanks for listening to the SNL Hall of Fame water cooler. To connect with Joe and Shari, join our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/SNLHOF. To email the cast, write to snlhofwc@gmail.com. Please subscribe, share, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. To podcasts and such.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So, while ice skating for 2 is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
The sun's shining, birds are singing, and all feels right in the world.
Until the season changes, and suddenly you lose your motivation to get out of bed. In fact, 1 in 5 people experience some form of depression, no matter the season or time of year.
At the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, our vision is to build a mentally healthy nation for all, because we want you to live your best life and be your best you all year round.
Please visit mentallyhealthynation.org to learn more.